we go. Okay, hold on. Okay, so what I've done is, what I've done is I've muted everyone. Basically, I can see you if your camera is on, and if you have a question, I guess you can wave, or I think they have the little hand things as well. Since there are quite a few of you, I'm going to try to limit it to one question per person until like everyone's had a turn, and then if we have time left, we'll go back through. So I hope that sounds good to everyone. I see, hey Don. So Dawn had actually sent me a question. Normally I started off with like general stuff, but because there's so many of you, we're just gonna start with questions. Dawn had sent me a question about budgets, actually, so I'm gonna start there. He had asked, what is the best way to determine a film's budget? If you have a basic feature horror comedy script without a big name star attached, could you make a movie for 1 to 3 million or less? What about action features? Is the acting talent the main budgeting factor on the sets? There is a webinar that I sent Dawn the link to that covers most of this. I feel like a lot of, Sam, you can, if you put a question in chat, I will try to get to it. If you want to speak to me directly, we can do it that way as well. For budgets though, what happens is, what was I saying? I feel like a lot of you asked this question because of pitching. And if that's not the case, then correct me, Dawn. But if it's because of pitching, the general rule that I always tell people is do not offer your budget to the exec. Don't tell them this is a low budget, blah, 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 because they're gonna be like, right, you don't know that. But if they ask you what the budget is, definitely know the answer. So don't offer, but know what the answer is. That is like the safest way to kind of play it. Talent is a very, very big part of budgets, but it just really depends. As that webinar, the link that I sent you to, kind of goes over into it, there are things that go into budget that you might not consider. Like people go, oh, I have a family drama with 2 kids and a dog and it takes place at a lake house. That budget is probably gonna be higher than a horror budget because you have a body of water, you have an animal, you have children. All of these things add to the budget. So there are all sorts of different things that you have to kind of keep in mind. That does not mean necessarily that it's high budget, but that it just adds to the budget. So that's why they always go like, well, do they have to have, you know, the XYZ? It's just because that's what they're thinking of. I just realized I should probably also introduce myself, but most of you, I think, read the little blurb. I am the Director of Education at Roadmap. I'm also a market analyst for various foreign companies who basically own theater chains. So if you're in America and you see like, you know, AMC and Edwards and things like that, so the people who own those chains in international territories, I'm the person to go to decide, hey, this script is at market and they're selling it, do I want to buy it? So that's what my job is, my other job, basically. Okay, I think I saw, there is a little hand system there, so where did I see it? Is it Yassine?
Hello.
Hi, how do you pronounce your name?
Yassine.
Yassine, okay.
Yeah.
Hi, what's your question?
Well, my question is, well, my television idea is like this urban, well, actually, the log line is, I'm born a slave, cursed with immortality. Adam James is shaped by centuries of the terror of racism, and yet continues his fight until he finds a cure for his affliction. Now, what my question is, does that sound more historical fantasy or more urban fantasy to you?
Historical, because you use the word centuries, but if it's taking place in modern day, it's your logline has to indicate at what point is this taking place, because even if it's centuries, it could be like from Roman times, And if you go centuries, you're going to end up in like Victorian times, not modern day times. So you can say something like, he searches for a cure to his affliction in modern times, or something like that, just to kind of make them aware that, hey, this is not historical, this is taking place now, if that's the case.
Yeah, I guess I'm just having trouble trying to explain that to people. It's like every season would be a different time period. So it's like, how do I put that into a...
Then you would say, as over the course of,
and
like,
bring the other phone. You can listen on the other phone.
hang on. Let me find it again.
The course. Over the course. Yeah, that's good.
So
Thank you.
over the course of, so that way it's understandable that, hey, we're following him as he goes through this journey.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you. That was really all I needed. And
Okay.
well, actually, one more thing. Where do you think? Do you know like a specific like what kind of company would this go to? Is like I've seen like people looking for drama, comedy.
And
Nothing.
it's a pilot. It's a TV series.
Yeah, TV pilot, TV series. I have a pilot script and everything.
Okay. For that, there's so many more platforms that are opening up right now. There are all the digital ones like, Hulu and Amazon and Netflix and stuff like that. So you can take it there. It sounds like if you're doing over the course of time, that's going to be bigger budget. And that would be something like Stars would probably pick up something. Stars has their hit right now with
Outlander.
I wanted to say Highlander, and I'm like, that's not correct. So they
Great
have
movie.
so they have their hit right now with that. And one thing about Hollywood is when they strike gold, they just keep mining away until there's nothing left. So you could try something like that. There are smaller platforms, but for something that requires a bigger budget, you're going to have someone that can fit it, basically.
All right. Yeah. Thank you.
Great. Chat is blinging away. Okay. Anyone else? Anyone? I see William.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not sure if I'm unmuted.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, great. Good. Thanks for doing this. So when you have a script or something, how do you and how can we figure out the marketability of that? Like, what are the things that go into this is what we, what is this worth?
Domestically or international?
Both.
Domestically and international kind of have different criterias. So did any of you see the Warcraft movie that had come out? And it was really terrible.
I'm aware of it. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's completely terrible. It did not do that well domestically, but it's gonna get a sequel because it did 300 million in China. So internationally has different criteria. There are certain like Will Smith no longer brings in domestic hits. And he still does his movies like once a year, but they don't have that guaranteed hit. The reason why he's still one of the biggest powerhouses in the world is internationally, his movies still bring in the big bucks. So there's different things that they look at for international versus domestic. I'll give you guys an example. There is a new movie that is in development right now with Kate McKinnon and Mila Kunis. And this is just between the 30 of us. I actually had to do an analysis on that. And we have to determine whether the movie would do well in Asia. So the problems with that is that if you do like a Americanized, like think of The Heat or something like that. These are movies that will do really well domestically. They have a lot of banter, they have a lot of slang, they have a lot of Americanisms in it. They do not do well internationally because no one can understand what the hell they're talking about. So So we have to kind of determine like, okay, can this translate well? That is the number one thing that people look for in international success is this a theme? Is this a story? Are these characters? And is this dialogue that will translate well? There's another movie that Arnold Schwarzenegger is actually doing, and it's all about a guy who is a private eye, again, just between the 31 of us now, who is a private eye who is kind of stuck in the 70s, but lives in modern times. So he uses a lot of kind of references to the 70s, and if you understand those references, it's hilarious. But if you're like a 20-something and you're in Spain and you have no idea, like, you know, what they're talking about, it's not going to work. So it's different criteria for domestic, different criteria for international. So I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, somewhat. But I guess in a general sense, or any of the tools that you use, like what would we be able to have access to say, here's a script that I have if I'm looking for fundraising for it or something, and these are the same tools that, like, you know, a professional uses to evaluate the marketability of this script?
Well, the tools that we use is basically experience. I've been doing it for 12 years. So basically, once you get to know the buyers and, like, you know, Odeon and Greece and things like that, once you get to know the buyers and you study the market trends, and anyone can do this. You guys can just like look up, like go to like boxofficemojo.com or something.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look up the international box office, you look up comps to your script. So if your script is like, you know, my script is like Arrival. Great, go look up Arrival and go see the numbers that it did. If domestic was like, you know, 100 million and international combined is like 30 million, obviously something did not translate. Night and Day, which is kind of an old one now, with Tom Cruise and Cameron Diaz, did not do well domestically, but it made like 400 international. So it's one of those where this is something that anyone can do. You just go and see, how did this do well? Like, did it do well? Did it not do well? And then that will be an indicator of, there are certain territories where certain genres just do not do well. They do not translate. Like, you know, and there are other ones where certain genres will hit it no matter what. So with sci-fi, it's not a huge seller in Russia, but if you're not trying to get financing from Russia, you should be fine. So it's just know like where you're trying to get your fundraising from. If you're like going to like the Italian Film Commission and they absolutely hate a certain genre or it does not do well, and that genre is your genre, it shows you didn't do your research.
Very good. All right, thanks.
Okay, great.
Can you hear me?
I can. I don't know who's talking though.
Oh, I'm Valerie Rose.
Oh,
can you
hi,
see
Valerie.
my picture?
Yeah, I'm sorry. There's like 30 little boxes on my screen.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought there were only 4 people. There were only 4 people on my screen. But anyway, the question that I have is that I'm told that the only way you can get a deal is to get an agent. And to get an agent, you have to get a recommend from a coverage house or something. But it still seems like there's a gap, because if you send your script to a coverage house or whatever it is, and they recommend it, if you don't know anyone in Hollywood, you know, do they automatically recommend it, or what happens after you get coverage? How does a person who lives?
Yeah, don't send it to a coverage house. It's not going to do anything. So I'm all, just to cut to the heart of the matter, it won't do anything. Hollywood is all about who you know, the connections, and the people in Hollywood that can sign you. They will take it on a recommend from someone they know versus a coverage house, because they don't know who's working in that coverage house. It could be interns for all they know. They don't know the quality of the work. They don't trust someone. So how Hollywood works basically is, that's why we created Roadmap. That's why Joey created Roadmap, is because execs trust him and his opinions and his taste. So when Joey says, this is someone you should read, an exec will go, oh, well, Joey is saying it, because they trust what Joey recommends. They're not going to trust Joe Schmo at so-and-so coverage house. Even if you got coverage done at like the Illuminati of agencies, which is CAA, even if you got it done there, it does not mean much. It means much more coming from an actual physical person that they're like, oh, I know so-and-so and I trust them. The connections that I have, even, it's like, it's because I know their taste. I wouldn't send so-and-so at a certain company a period drama when I know all they do is horrors and thrillers. It's that personal connection, and that's kind of how it works. But that's why this was created, is to help you guys get those connections, and we can be the bridge in between. But yeah, don't waste your time and money on coverage houses. It's really like the chance of getting something like signed by that is like probably like 0.1%.
Okay, but Joey is busy running, roadmap. So he doesn't have time to read people's scripts, and so how do you bridge that gap?
He does read when he can, but it also is like through consults and coverages through our place, is because it's done by execs. That's our whole thing, that every consult, every coverage, and everything that you get done by roadmap, it's not going to be an intern somewhere. It's someone that's actually working currently in the industry. So you're having an industry professional actually have eyeballs on it. That's why they have the programs and the classes. It's all a way for you to kind of get yourself out there, learn from these people who are currently working in the industry, and just, introduce yourself to the people there. We do free reads. We do get a backlog now and then, so you guys are more than welcome to kind of submit to, I believe we submit to Alex, and we can give you some feedback. But you'll get your feedback also on stuff like pitches and things like that. It's how you learn and how you get your stuff out there, because we do pay attention. So if you're pitching something and you're like, I have a great idea and it's about octopuses and bears in space doing an opera, and we hear someone go, you know what, I really am looking for a space opera with octopi, thank you, with octopi and bears, we'll be like, you know what, like, I swear we heard Valerie pitch 2 weeks ago and she pitched that exact thing. So it's like, and I know it's frustrating, like there is no set formula, you guys. It is really just one of those, like, I heard XYZ, or do you know, like, it's really like that lamely simple and that frustratingly difficult. So there's really no one set way. It's just, you just keep trying, you pitch, you workshop, and you just hope that someone connects to the material.
Tarini?
Okay.
Yes.
Well, would you just provide Alex's number, email? That's all I wanted to say.
Yes, I'm gonna put it in the chat box.
Okay, thank you.
Just a
Thank
second.
you.
I heard my name. Who's
Right
talking?
here, Kenneth Wood.
Hi.
Over here.
Hey, Kenneth.
Yeah, I just wanted to say Roadmap connected me with an executive from Disney, and we're working on my second script with her right now. So thank you for that. And it works. I just wanted to encourage everybody else that's listening in. Roadmap's doing a great job on that. My question is back on what you were talking about, worldwide, international versus domestic. We should, as writers, keep the worldwide a little bit more in focus, because I'm seeing a lot of movies are making more money outside the U.S. than inside the U.S.
It really just depends, which is like the worst answer possible, but it really, really just does. I always encourage everyone, keep abreast of trends, in the sense that, like, zombie movies are just so done. Dystopian movies are really, really done. Like, no one wants to read another dystopian movie for like another 10 years type thing. But at the same time, the biggest thing is when you love something that you wrote and you connect with the material, because I will actually go out on a limb and say every single script that someone wrote to a trend, I have always been like, it doesn't come alive, because it's not something. It's not something that your heart was in. You guys, even though scripts are blueprints for the movie, you're still telling a story. You still have to love what you write. And if you are slogging through it and you don't like what you're writing and you're like, well, but thrillers are really easy sells, so I guess I should do it. Just don't, because if you don't love your work, no one else will either. So the first person that you have to be like, oh my God, who loves this is you. If you don't, you're not going to be able to sell it. Because and I've seen it, and some of you have done pitch prep with me, and you know it, and I can always tell, and I'm all like, do you like what you're writing? Because you'll be like, kind of like, so there's this guy, and he's in trouble, and I'm all like, you need to really like believe in what you're writing. So it's as like, be aware of things, but don't write to it.
Right.
So yeah. Did you have a question? Or
Did I
just like kind of take what you said?
Well, I was just asking your opinion on worldwide versus domestic, what you thought. So it just depends.
Yeah. So just be aware, but don't let it determine what you do, basically.
Okay.
Okay. I see hands up. So I see a lot of hands up. Okay. I think Mark. I'm gonna go to Mark because I saw him have his hand up earlier.
Okay. Hi. You already kind of answered my question, which always happens if you just hang out long enough in the chat here. But I wanted to get it a little bit more specific. As writers trying to break in, definitely we should not chase trends. So would you say take a look at Box Office Mojo and look at and see what stories are not being served? And if that's something in that appeals to you, okay, in my case, like an indie drama, then that's what you should go with because your heart will be in it, and those particular things aren't being served in the marketplace at the moment. Would that be correct?
Yeah, you can definitely do something like that. Pick something that you're like, this is what I want to do. I've heard some amazing stories from you guys, and you have found like little nuggets of history where I was all like, I didn't even know that happened. That's so cool. You know, like the world and history is so vast and so full of these obscure little things. It's like there's so much stuff out there that you guys can write about. You know, the world doesn't need another James Bond, Jason Bourne, Jack Reacher. Like all of these three things are the same guys. Like I don't know if you guys like have watched these five. They're all the same person. I swear to God. So it's, you know, it's write what you love and it'll come through with the disclaimer that if what you love is like some completely niche thing about like, you know, like I said, like bears and octopi in space or something, like don't be like, well, Tarini said to write what I love and I wrote what I loved and no one's connecting with it. It's so it's one of those, like, be aware of that. But the number one thing is, even if you wrote octopi and bear in space doing a space opera, if you have the right themes that connect to other people, that will like transcend everything. So if it's about like, you know, if it's basically Romeo and Juliet with octopi and bears, people know that story. You know, people can understand, oh, they're in love and they're not allowed to be, you know, they're from completely different worlds. It's a fish out of water story, you know, all of these other things in like, that's what I just did. It's bear and octopi in space, but it's Romeo and Juliet. I've just changed the setting and I've changed who Romeo and Juliet are. So as long as you can connect to people, that's really kind of all that matters.
Well, that brings up another issue. It seems like the town likes to box you in. Whatever the first thing is you sell, it's like, oh, Mark, he's that horror guy. But the more I write in different genres and whatever, I find that it's not the genre I'm attracted to, it's the themes that I can explore within that genre. So I would like an executive to be able to say, well, let's give Mark a chance. He's that guy he's really good with dealing with dark material, and not like, well, I don't want to consider Mark because he's just that horror guy. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and the more you work and the more you're around in the industry, the more it'll happen.
Okay.
That's every writer's goal. And once you get representation, their job is to make sure that they package you in the correct way. So you're on the right track.
Hopefully. Thank you.
Okay, I see a lot of other people. I'm gonna go with Urban Grace B.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi. Hi, it's Grace. So I recently did a verbal pitch for someone for a movie, and his kind of reaction was, have you ever thought of doing this
As a TV show?
you know, as a cartoon, not a TV show.
Okay.
As a cartoon, as, you know, as an animation.
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't thought of it at the time, but, you know, as I think about it more, I think, well, maybe that is a possibility. But what has your experience been when it comes to trying to create an animation? Is it more complicated? Is there more possibilities,
yeah, you know what? We actually just did a webinar on this like 2 weeks ago about like animation and how it's kind of a different world. I'm going to be honest, animation is not my wheelhouse. I just know that it is kind of a different world, and it's done in a different way. So I would definitely recommend checking out that webinar. If you want to actually do like a consult, we have like 1 or 2 animation people on our roster. They would be the best people to consult with about that. Like pretty much my knowledge of it is it's a different world, and it's different than writing a live action script. You cannot write a live action script and be like, this should be a cartoon. So the person who gave you that advice, by the way, if they do not work in animation, I would probably disregard it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. I hope that helped. Okay, Sam, I keep seeing you wave your hand.
Hey, how are you doing? So just in regards to the actual like pitching of the material that you've got, would it ever help? Because like I'm sure some of us have like connections with production companies, whether or not it's local or whatnot. But like if you actually have a group of like really talented filmmakers to shoot it, would it ever help bringing that up inside of the pitch when it comes to trying to get funding for it?
Are they people with names? Like if you said like, I kind of know Steven Spielberg and he's willing to direct my script. If you have a name like that I'm going to recognize, or you're like, you know, little Ronnie Howard and I go way back. Names
I wish it was like that. They are like locally, and I'm from the South, I'm from Nashville. And they've won some awards for their documentaries, not like major awards, but nonetheless some like Southern Emmys and stuff like that. Yeah, I just didn't know if that was ever something that's helpful in the pitch process, you know, if you're talking
Not really, because if they want to buy your script, they want to have their own team on it, not yours.
But if it's like a production company that you're pitching to, the same thing?
If it's a production company, chances are they already have a roster of directors and people that they work with. If it's a tiny production company, then maybe.
Okay.
It just really depends on who you're pitching to, how you're pitching to them. If it's something like a buddy of yours knows a guy who is working for a 2-person production company that has a film finance fund, then that's different. Then you can be like, look, man, I need XYZ amount of money, and I have the crew, I have the equipment. I just need like gap financing, you know.
Yeah, and that's really, that's the biggest thing. I'm sure like most of the writers here, the hardest thing is trying to overcome the financial obstacles that come in getting.
Yeah, so if you're talking about pitching to someone, like I said, like it's through a friend of a friend, and like you got a face-to-face with them, and it's a 2-person company, and they're just sitting on like a pile of cash that they're like, well, I'm just gonna throw this out the window type thing. Sure, then definitely let them know that all you have to do is provide the financing, and you don't have to provide anything else. I have the director, I have the cinematographer, I have the equipment, I have the cast, I have the location, I have everything ready to go. I just need someone to hand me a check. That's fine. But if you're pitching to someone on like one of our rosters who happens to be like an agent or something, the second that you say you have your crew and equipment ready to go, they're going to check out.
They check out. Okay.
Yeah. because what they hear, especially if it's a rep or it's someone that's a producer from like, if they're from like Sony, if they're from Lionsgate, if they're from Summit, if they're from Warner Brothers, if they're from Universal, if you say something like that, what they're hearing is that you're not going to give up control of your script. You're going to be a pain in the butt to work with, and they don't want that.
Gotcha. Okay, excellent. That's what I was wondering.
Okay. I know I saw some other hands. Judith. All right. Hey, Judith.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
I just had a specific follow-up on one of the things that came up earlier. You said that like Arrival did real well domestically, but did not do well internationally, whereas Night and Day did well internationally, but not domestically. I'm wondering if you could do a little analysis of that, you know, as to why you think it went that way.
It depends on also the genre. For Night and Day, at the time that it came out, which is so long ago, the only reason I use it as a reference is because it was just one of the ones. Yeah, it's just one of the ones that like I had done an analysis on for a different script. But the reason for it is that at that time, it was when Tom Cruise was like considered crazy by everyone, like jumping on the couch, and everyone was all like, he's kind of batshit gone, you know, and they're like, I don't want to. Like everyone was just turned off of Tom Cruise in the States. That's why it was like a turning of the tide. But internationally, Tom Cruise was still like beloved by all. So Tom Cruise, international numbers, huge. His Mission Impossible still domestically bring in big bucks. The guy's like 100 years old. He's not that old, but he's really like not as spry as he used to be, but he's making like Mission Impossible 8 or something now. And I'm not even joking with that. He's doing it because he knows that that's where his meal ticket is. He just did The Mummy, huge box office failure domestically. I have not checked the international numbers for that, but I don't know if it's high or low. Is it high? Sam's saying high. But the reason for it is, again, domestically, crap. No one cares about Tom Cruise unless he's in Mission Impossible. But internationally, Tom Cruise, huge superstar. People still love him. People, like, you'll see when he goes to airports, screaming fans everywhere. If he lands at LAX, like, paparazzi don't even photograph him because no one cares. So it depends on who's starring in it. It depends on what the genre is. Stuff like The Mummy, where it's like, you know, it's action, it's thriller, it's sci-fi, it's you know, it's fast. It's like, yeah, they're like, yeah, like I said, with Warcraft, terrible movie. Domestically, just stink. But the game is so popular in China that the numbers in China like made up for it completely. So yeah, see, look at Christopher. He's all like, I love that game. A lot of people love that game. That's why the movie is, I don't know if the sequel is a complete go, but if it does get one, I'm like so not going to be surprised. The international numbers like totally made up for it. So it just depends. Genre and who's in it are like the biggest factors.
Thank you.
No.
Well, how about Arrival? Why did it not do well internationally?
I actually don't know if it did well or not. All I know is that sci-fi is not a huge genre in Asia. It's not like it's not their thing. Sci-fi actually domestically also is kind of like a crapshoot now. And if I remember correctly, it didn't do like bang bucks at the box office, but because of all of the Oscar buzz and all of that, people were like, ooh, you know, Arrival. So like sci-fi is also not my genre, so I didn't really pay attention much to it. But just it's like there are certain genres that will not, like any indie drama, that's all domestic. So anyone who's writing an indie drama, international sales are not going to affect you very much because they will make $0 internationally. Only domestic people are interested in indie dramas. There's a slim to none chance that anyone internationally will go for it.
Thank you. Interesting.
I see Ellen.
Yes, hi Tarini. I want to know what's about the romantic comedy, the market, international.
The romantic comedy. We actually had a webinar with Christian Taylor, who is of Taylor Lane Productions, and somebody asked him the same thing, and he even said that he's not quite sure why the romantic comedy kind of is dead these days. But according to Christian Taylor, the romantic comedy is due for a comeback. And I will tell you that though romantic comedies do not do much business in the feature world, and they don't get wide audiences, they are doing huge on TV as TV movies. Hallmark Channel, Lifetime, not Crackle, Pixel, which is Pixl, are all of these channels put out a romantic comedy movie like once a week. And guys, they're like ridiculous popcorn movies. The guy and girl always fall in love and get engaged before they even kiss for the first time. It's like, they're very kind of sanitized things, but they do big business. I might be wrong, but I want to say Mark Levinson is the guy who produces every single one of these movies, whether it's for Pixel, whether it's for Lifetime, whether it's for Hallmark. You'll see it. Watch the credits, the opening credits. It'll say Mark Levinson Productions on each and every single one. So if you can get a contact at Mark Levinson, I mean, they will stick you in like a writer's room and they'll just be like churn one out after the other, because like for Hallmark, they do 30 Days of Christmas, I think. It's a brand new rom-com Christmas movie every single day in December, every single day. In June, they do their wedding bride special. It's like a new one every other week. For Valentine's, it's like a chocolate series. And some of them are really like, I'm like, it's really ridiculous, like kind of how they do it, but I'm impressed with the sheer volume of product that they put out. Another company is Mar Vista Entertainment. They also do huge stuff with these kind of TV rom-com movies. I don't know if that helped.
Thank you.
Okay. I saw somebody else, Frankie. Hey, Frankie.
Hey, Tarini. My question is, in regards to making an indie feature and getting distribution for it, I was just wondering what kind of advice you have for any person who's making an indie feature and they want to try to get distribution in the range of like under $1 million, definitely, but more like 100,000.
You're shooting it yourself?
Yeah, most likely. So like I know Sundance is like the biggest for indies, but it's more like
Sundance and Slamdance and AFM. AFM is way bigger than Sundance, but AFM is also local. It's Santa Monica every November. AFM is every November in Santa Monica. If you can just go and even walk around, I don't know if you're in California or not. Sundance is another one. Slamdance is the other one. If Sundance, you can't get in there, you can probably get in at Slamdance. People do watch these festivals. These are markets, and that's kind of how you do it. You have to get your movie in there to have it screened in order for domestic distributors to be able to see it and decide if they want to purchase. I think you froze. I hope that answered your question. Let's see. I saw some, you know what? I think, where's Jeffrey? Because I see his hand here. Is Jeffrey here? Jeffrey? I'm trying to see.
I am here.
Oh, okay. I hear you. I'm sorry. I have like two screens. Oh, there you are, Jeffrey. Okay. Hi, sorry. What's your question?
Okay. So as someone who actually did see the awful Warcraft movie, I have a 13-year-old son, so it goes with the territory. Apart from the obvious, massive amounts of character CGI and the fantastical elements related to the game, one of the things that struck me was that the whole rhythm of the story felt a little off, and I'm wondering if anyone has looked at the sort of maybe structural story differences in terms of what plays better outside the U.S. in, say, China or Europe or
Possibly.
beyond genre?
Possibly for that particular movie, just because of what a big budget it was and because it's based on existing IP on such a huge popular video game. I'll be honest, they really don't care about the story. They were just all like, we're going to make $1 million, you know, or not a million, but like $1 billion. And they didn't make $1 billion, but they were like, this is money in the bank. They could have like just, you know, they, as long as they do throwbacks to the video game, they would be fine, and they knew it. So for stuff like that, the bigger the budget, they tend to kind of fall through. I don't know if anyone here saw Batman versus Superman. It's a turd. Like it's one of the worst movies ever. You know, Suicide Squad was one of the worst movies ever. I will fight anyone that argues with me on this. It's one of the worst movies ever, but it made like an obscene amount of money because they knew that the fans would come out because they loved those characters. Existing IP stories, existing IP movies, I should say, are in a completely different genre for that reason, because they are counting on the built-in audience. That's why I'm sure a lot of you have heard people go, existing IP is where it's at. It is where it's at. It's because Hollywood is lazy and they want they're like, oh, there's already a fan base for this, less work for us, you know, and that's kind of why it happens that way.
Okay.
All right. I know I saw other hands. Guys, I'm so sorry, but like I just realized I have like 2 screens. So if you were trying to get my attention before, I probably didn't see it. No one on the screen. And okay, I think there's this chat box has been lighting up and I've been like nothing. Okay.
Clinton West is raising his hand.
Oh, okay. There we go. Hi, Clinton. Thank you.
How are you? I just had a quick question. We all know of Nichols and Blue Cat and Blacklist screenwriting contest, but they take so long to get back to you, of course, because they're only once a year. Would you recommend that if you get good coverage, say from Roadmap on your script, to just pitch it instead of throwing in, you know, 40 or 50 bucks and waiting 6 months for feedback or more money, and just pitch through you guys? What is your thought on that?
It's kind of apples and oranges. There's different ways of doing it. Nichols is a very respected fellowship, basically, and reps do look at these contests. But the higher ones, the UCLA one is I don't know if it's and if anyone knows, feel free to jump in. I don't know if it's open to everyone or just UCLA students. But the people who are placed in that, the finalists, especially the winners, they have reps that will be knocking on their door. And I know this for a fact because one of my good friends actually won 1 year, and she went from a no name to having management knocking on her door to actually having assistants message her friends on Facebook looking for an introduction to her. Yeah. So sometimes they get a little carried away. But they do look at these. I think it's something like the top 10 Nichols scripts get sent to like every agency or something, and they do look them over. So it's
had 7,000 scripts. So
yeah. So for out of 7,000, if you feel like I can make it into the top 10, and you, I mean it's kind of the same as pitching, as in you don't know if it'll connect or not, and if it does, and you make it into the top 10. Then yes, you do get your script put in front of these agencies and representatives and management and things like that. But it still doesn't mean that they will reach out to you. If they don't like the material, if they don't connect with it, if they're only looking for comedy writers and you happen to write this drama period piece, it can be the best drama period piece, but they just don't rep that genre. So it's a multitude of factors.
Maybe to be a little bit of both, because there's hundreds of screenwriting contests. Maybe pick the top 10 that are the best. And
yeah, no, don't, like, guys, there's so many screenwriting contests out there, and I see this on some of your written pitches where you'll be like, oh, I won so-and-so contest, so-and-so award. if it's not one of the ones that is like recognized by the industry, like when you say Nichols, everyone knows what it is. But if you say I won the, you know, Walmart parking lot 2013 shopping cart screenwriter of the year award, we're not going to know what that is. So if we don't know what it is, it's not going to make a difference to us that you won it or you placed it or anything. I'm going to put my email address in the Zoom group chat thing. If anyone's interested in the contest and stuff, I have a list somewhere. I will send it to you, and it is basically all like the approved contests and fellowship and stuff that that if you guys are going out for something, those are probably the ones that you want to stick to. So I will do that. Is there? Did I answer your question, Clinton?
Thank you. I appreciate it. That's awesome.
Okay. Was there, okay, and then I was answering over here. Let's see, what is the industry looking for most? More great episodic television series ideas, more feature film ideas, or more great writers? More great writers, more great writers. We're always looking for great writers. I know it seems like every exec is looking for a reason to say no to you. It's actually the opposite. Everyone is looking for a reason to say yes. Everyone's looking for a reason to say yes. They want to say yes. Like every time they hear a pitch, they're sitting there like, please God, let this be the one that I connect with. You know, they really do, like, trust me on this. They really do want to say yes. And but they have such a, it's like dating, you know, you're not going to be like when you go out with someone and you're like, it didn't suck. Well, I guess I should marry them. You're not going to do that. You know, you're going to be like, okay, when you connect with someone, you're like, oh, that was amazing. And then you have the general meeting, which is you go on another date type thing. And you're like, I think I can work with this person. Then you get down on bended knee. But if you don't feel that spark initially, there's really no point in pursuing it. So kind of think of it in that way. But that's what the industry is looking for. We're looking for great writers. We're looking for great storytellers. We're looking for people that we can work with. And I've met some writers like this where they're like, this is the story I want to tell, and you can either tell it for me or you can get lost type thing. No one's going to work with you guys. If you're not willing to take notes, if you're not willing to be collaborative, you're not going to get representation, basically. It seems like such a basic thing, but like we've seen people like shoot themselves in the foot because of it. So it doesn't, and I should add a disclaimer, it doesn't mean that you take every note that they give you, because they may not understand your story or what you're trying to tell. But if they do give a note, just sit on it and process it and be like, okay, why are they giving me that note? What am I doing that what I was trying to convey didn't come across? Because if they're being like, well, you should do this, you need to analyze why are they saying that, not necessarily whatever advice that they're giving you, basically. Does simple work better if you're starting out than complexity? Always. If you throw me, if page 1 is the Bavarian War between the Flockies and the Goopies, and I'm like, I don't know who any of these people are, it's very difficult to care about any of the characters. This was a trend in the 90s in like books and movies and stuff, where like the opening is going to be like, there's a war happening and someone's getting stabbed or shot or something, and it's like this amazing, like, oh my God, the visuals and gripping. The problem with it is that we don't care about the character. You haven't given us a reason to care about them, and if I don't care about the character, I don't care what they're doing. That's kind of what it is. And that's why we always emphasize to you guys, character is key. You have to make us care about the characters, because they can go on the most epic journey, but if I don't give a tiny rat's butt about them, I don't care what happens on that journey. So always, always, character is key. Does Roadmap help connect writers with the most likely executives for your genre and stuff? Yeah, it depends. Like if you're going to be pitching someone and we know that, and you ask our opinion, like, hey, there are these 3 execs on the roster. I'm writing this. Who do you think might be a good fit for me? Joey's excellent at that. He'll be like, oh, well, so-and-so would be a good fit for you. You know, if you want to do a consult, He's very, very good about that, where he'll be like, oh, okay, you know, I'm writing a comedy action movie with romantic elements. Who might be a good fit for that? Like, I'm looking to do a 1 hour consult. So yeah, we can definitely do that. Let's see, did I miss anything? Is it a good thing to let a single foreign country determine the market value of local film industry, i.e. China and their reception of films versus something with possibly more substance? No, don't do that. Like, because what sells, you're not writing for a Chinese production company, you are writing for companies here. And you, like I said, the biggest thing if you are going to be considering international sales is write something that translates. And by translates, I don't mean just dialogue. Like I said before, like Americanisms and slang and things like that. It's not even just the dialogue, it's just the general story of it. You know, if you have the movie that I was talking about before is The Spy Who Dumped Me. Again, between 35 of us. The Spy Who Dumped Me is about these two girls who are best friends, and they, you know, they like to, they have their potty mouths, they do their gross out gags and stuff. But one of the girls was dating a spy, and he breaks up with her, and then she learns that he's a spy and gets thrown into this crazy world. Does that translate, you know, where they are culturally, where they are in their part of the world? Is that something that they would understand? Is basically, that's like a really simple setup. So yeah. Let's see, do producers only pay attention to scripts that win contests? No. Producers pay attention to pretty much everything. I know it seems like they don't, but they do, because they're always on the hunt for material. And it comes down to this. Basically, they don't know what they're looking for until they find it. I will guarantee you 100%, every single producer, manager, agent, actor, everyone, financier, that is what it comes down to. They literally will not know, but when they hear it and they know, they'll be like, yes. So that's just kind of what it comes down to. Yeah, so some of the notes I've gotten make me think they haven't even read the script. Some people are turds, like, that's the bottom line. So some people just won't get it. Some people won't connect to it. Some people will just be like, you know, I didn't get it, and that's okay. Some people just won't understand it, and that's fine. And then you guys just move on to the next person. If the biggest note that you guys should take is if it's a consistent note. If it's something that you're hearing across the board, if every single person is all like, I didn't connect with this character, which is, I know, it's one of the worst notes because you're like, what does that mean? But if you hear it more than once, it means there is a disconnect happening, and you need to like go in and be like, okay, why are people not connecting with it? So if it's a consistent note, that's a note that you definitely need to look into. How do you feel about dollar or free options? The dollar options of existing IP is actually Stephen King's website. He will, Sam, do you have a question, or is it someone else's hand? Is it someone else's hand?
That's my daughter, sorry.
Oh, okay. I was all like, wow, you really have a question. Okay, sorry. Anyway, so Stephen King
Maybe she has a question.
Yeah, maybe she has a question. Stephen King has a website where he will let you option any of his short stories to direct for $1. It's existing IP, and you can shoot it yourself if you know how, basically. And we're fine with that. Like, if you want to go and do that, and as long as you have the rights. So that's what I should say. If it's a free option or a dollar option on existing IP that you're like, I'm going to write this, as long as you have the rights. Guys, I've seen people literally burst into tears because someone will love the script, and then they go, oh yeah, it's based on my favorite book, which I don't have the rights to. Don't do that. Like, guys, definitely, if you're going after existing IP, cover yourselves, auction the rights to it. Like, it is so important, and it will save you a lot of heartache. Any thoughts on The Beguiled and what writers can learn from the process behind that film? Judith, I haven't seen it yet. So when I watch it, my next AMA, we will come back to that. Are producers looking for writers to develop their concepts? How often does this happen? Yes and no. But the people that they're looking for writers to develop their concepts, it's writers that they've worked with and they're familiar with their work. So if they know the person's work and their writing style, they'll be like, oh, hey, Mark, this is what you were saying earlier. Mark is really good with dark stuff, and I just read this paperback I got in the dollar bin while I was stuck in Jamaica for vacation, and I want someone to adapt it. It does happen, you know. Or they'll be like, I had a nightmare last night about clowns and sharks. It's the next Sharknado, and I need someone to write it. You know, it does happen. But not with new writers generally. It's not saying that it doesn't happen with them, but it's less likely to happen with them. How important is media for writers? Do we need Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, etc.? Do the executives really look into this? No, we care about your writing. You know, obviously, if you're a serial killer or something, that might be a deal breaker. But if you're a good one, we won't know. I'm kidding. I have a criminal justice degree. This is my sense of humor. Yeah, all of that stuff is really not important. The bottom line is, can you write? I have a ghost, supernatural, paranormal script. I don't feel the horror element is strong enough to call it a horror film. I could not find supernatural on Box Office Mojo. What should it be? It is actually supernatural, even though you won't find the genre there. Look up movies like, oh God, what is the name of that? Basically anything from the 90s. You'll have anything, like there was one that Sandra Bullock did. Premonition is one of them. Premonition. Kate Beckinsale did like a ton of them. She still does. She just did one, I want to say it's called The Locked Room. The basement. It's some sort of room. I'll be honest, I fell asleep watching it, but it's in that genre. It's and it's basically if you have ghosts, demons, anything like that, spirits, it's going to be supernatural. If you have blood and gore and like jump scares, it's going to be horror. So is there any topic, plot, theme that is absolutely hands off? No, but there are things that are going to be harder sells. And, but that, I mean, you can name any topic in the world and I can point you to a movie where someone made it. Did the movie do well? Probably not, you know, but someone went, I'm going to throw money at this. So have at it. What is your advice for choosing international distribution channels? Unless you're trying to work in international distribution, you don't really need to worry about that at this point. If you're trying to get into international distribution, then it depends also, are you getting into the distribution side or the sales side? It's like a completely different world, which I can talk about, but honestly, it's really boring and it doesn't affect you guys at all. What if you are involved in a situation where the rights holder of an IP will not sell the rights until you have a deal in place with a production company? We did a webinar all about auctioning rights and all of that legal stuff. I strongly recommend you check it out from our webinar library. It was done by Kate Imp, who works at Ramo Law. So she is an entertainment lawyer, and she covered a lot of that stuff. And the reason why I'm being vague is because a lot of it is over my head as well. She went into extreme detail. But basically, if that happens, it's a really dangerous situation for the production company to be in, because they don't have the rights to it and they're not going to feel comfortable about that. So there's that particular situation is going to involve a lot of paperwork, a lot of lawyers. and that webinar will definitely let you know more information than I could. I see Christopher. Okay. Hey, Christopher.
Hey, okay, along those same lines, can you get me into Warner's?
No. Yeah.
Or CBS. I don't know who owns the IP, but I've written something, you know what I'm writing. It's an existing IP, and I don't know really who owns the rights because the person who really owned the rights died.
See, you have to be careful with that. This is a story that I told during the options webinar, but basically I used to work for Mark Toberoff, which I don't expect any of you to know who he is, but he used to be like the top entertainment lawyer in Hollywood. And what he did is, I don't know if you guys remember the Dukes of Hazzard movie with Sean William Scott and Jessica Simpson, and I forgot who the other guy was. But it was based on the TV show, and I think it was something like Universal or Warner Brothers or someone did it. It was one of those big ones. So someone at that company messed up and probably got fired because what happened was they thought, oh, well, we own the TV show, so we can totally make the movie. They went ahead and made the movie, but what they didn't realize is that the TV show was based on existing IP, which was this tiny little thing called like Moonshine or something. And they, in order to make a feature of Dukes of Hazzard, they had to go to the original IP holders and get the rights to make a feature, which they did not, because they're like, we based it on the TV show, but the TV show was based on something else. And Mark Toberoff managed to get them like millions of dollars in settlement. So for IP things, if it's a matter of, well, I don't know who owns it, you're gonna have to find out. So if that webinar is like the best one, there's a bunch of material that comes with it, with like forms and how to track it down and everything. It's not finding who owns the original IP can be a long process, and I'm not gonna lie, it can be pricey depending on what you're going after. But it's better to kind of cover yourself instead of like having somebody random be like, that was my great uncle's wife's cousin's dog walker's, best friend's IP, and they left it to me. So it's happened, not in that exact way, but yeah.
Okay. Oh, what can you put the webinar information in there, please?
Yes, I will look it up and I will put it in the box. I thought I saw someone else's hand. Again, there's like 2 screens, so no. Okay, there was another one. Yeah, so this one was, I have been in the room with Woody Harrelson, Eric LaSalle, Clement Virgo, and Lee Daniels, but as an extra, I was warned by the PAs over and over not to speak to these people or even look them in the eye. What do you suggest? Because you said it's who you know. If you bother those people and you're an extra and they're on set, you're going to get a bad reputation because they are on set. It is their job. You are at their workplace. It's the equivalent of like walking into, someone's office and sitting down and trying to talk to them without a meeting. It's the same thing. They're there to work. They're there to do a job. They really don't want to be bothered with anything then. What I do suggest for those situations is you talk to other extras. You talk to the people that are there. You talk to the behind the scenes people who know the people that you want to get to know. Those are the people that you want to spend your time with. They're the people that are going to have some downtime. They're going to be chatting. The names that you listed, they don't have time to be bothered with anything. But talk to the other people around you because they're going to be in the same boat. There's a lot of people who also kind of disregard assistants, and I will tell you, the assistants of today are the power players of tomorrow. They're like, don't be like, oh, well, they're not big enough now. No one starts out big in Hollywood unless you got like a really famous parent. Everyone starts out at the bottom, and then you just make friends, keep friends, call them up every 6 months, once a year, take them out to coffee. And one of these days, they're going to be like, man, I just got a big promotion. I am now the director of development at blah, blah, blah. And you know what? You know the director of development at blah, blah, blah now. And that's kind of how it works. You just make friends and talk to people. But yeah, the names that you listed, don't aim that high yet. Let's see. How do you get a pitch meeting without an agent? We did a webinar on that. I do not recommend getting a pitch meeting without an agent though. How do you determine a network mandate and demographics to determine if your show is a fit for the network? Research, you have to look up what their slate is. If it's like for HBO and who do these kind of like these bigger kind of shows and you're pitching them a half-hour sitcom, obviously you don't know their slate. Do your homework, go back at least 5 years, see their slate, see what premiered, see what got canceled right away, see what got canceled after one season. Look at other, if you're going for cable, then look at a wide array of cable. Look at FX, look at FXX, you know, look at these smaller companies. What are they going after? What are they developing? Is there a certain theme, or are they just kind of throwing stuff at the wall? Look, if it's for sci-fi stuff, Sci-Fi Channel isn't the only channel out there now. There's also Ion, and I always forget the other one. But there's up-and-coming channels. Literally just kind of like grab a DirecTV guidebook and just like go through and be like, what channel is this? If you haven't heard of it, but they're on TV, research them. Find out what channel it is. Look them up online. See, do they have submissions? Some of them do. Let's see. Do I have to live in LA? I see television writers in LA and I understand that, but a lot of TV series are produced in Atlanta. I can commute back and forth more easily to Atlanta and or stay for a while and return to Minnesota. Do I have to live there to continue to sell screenplays for film? You do not have to live in LA to sell anything, but it does help. But for TV, in order to work in a writer's room, most of the writer's rooms do end up being in LA. To be in a writer's room, you have to be willing to relocate to wherever the writer's room is. The writer's room is mostly situated not often where the production is. It's unless that's how the showrunner wants to do it. But the showrunner kind of gets to pick, like, well, my wife is in Atlanta, so I'm gonna do it in Atlanta type thing. There's a ton of film happening in Atlanta, so I don't know how many writers' rooms are there. New ones crop up all the time, but for TV, it is better if you are in LA. And what tends to happen is when you relocate to LA, and this actually happened to one of our writers who was, I think, in New York or something, and they relocated to LA, they got signed, and the writer's room was in New York. So back they went. That's just kind of how it happens. Let's see. We're like over time, but it's fine. I wanted to make sure I got everyone's questions. So if you have any last minute questions, you can pop them in the box or wave your hand, and then we're gonna end it, mainly because I'm getting cotton mouth. How do you target producers with European connections? You look at their slate. Like, I feel like that's like 90% of what I'm saying, but it's really, really true. It's research. You look at their slate. What you do is you find movies that have foreign financing, foreign production companies, and you'll find a lot of them. I want to say it's Julianne Moore who does these kind of like smaller ones, and God, who's the girl that played Trinity in The Matrix? Just whoever, she does a lot of small, Carrie-Anne Moss, thank you. Carrie-Anne Moss does a lot of these kind of smaller films that are foreign, and I believe she speaks French. So look up these people, like think of actors that you like, or like think of these like kind of smaller movies where you're like, how did that happen? You know, look up movies that are set in France and Italy. There's one with Sarah Jessica Parker. Oh my God, has it been filmed yet? Guys, I read so many scripts, I don't remember if they've if they've gone into production or if they've come out yet. Sarah Jessica Parker, look her up. There's one that she did, which was basically a road trip through Italy. These are the production companies. The chances are that it's like one American company and like 6 European companies. So you look up the producers on those, and then you look up the slate of those producers. And chances are that, you know, they tend to work with the same people over and over again. So do your research. It's like so many writers don't do their research. And if you do the research, you'll find these connections. Okay. I see a lot of people dropped out. So anyone else, any last questions? Any last questions? No? No? Okay. All right. Wait, I see Valerie's waving her hand.
Okay, just one quick question though.
All right.
I know that you can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but I know you can get you know, screenwriter for diversity, screenwriting. How do you slip that into the conversation when you're trying to pitch it? You know, to say, because I know they said something about that the production company doesn't have to pay for the writer because it's under some specific program or something like that. So how do you slip that into the into your pitch?
I'm not quite understanding what the question is.
I mean, should you just say, you know, that I have I'm a writer and you wouldn't have to pay me because, you know, as a selling point, you wouldn't have to pay me.
No, you don't want to say that because they will take you up on it. You, as a writer, your goal is to get paid. You need
no,
to
not get paid, but get paid out of. I've been told they have some kind of bucket or something for people of diverse backgrounds.
Oh no, it's not. Well, it's not like a giant bucket that all of Hollywood has access to type thing. It depends on the producer. It depends on the company. It depends on what it is. For pitching, and I should have said this when more people were still on, guys, always, if you have the chance, do a verbal pitch. You want to get face to face with this person. You want them to recognize your face, recognize your name, and let them see who you are. So that's an aside from what you were saying, but yeah, it depends on the producer. It depends on who you're pitching to, the company, and the resources that they have. There's like a bunch of stuff on, and we're developing stuff to kind of help you guys learn more about financing and things like that. It's not as simple as here's a bunch of money and go make a movie type thing. So sadly, that's kind of all I got for that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Last questions? Last chance? No? Okay. So thank you guys for joining me. And this recording will go out later. And if you guys ever have any questions, always feel free to email me. If you guys like this, I will host another AMA next month. And you guys are all welcome to come back to that. And some of you are very quiet. You guys feel free to speak up, ask me anything, anytime. Okay, have a great rest of the night. I will talk to all of you soon. Bye.
Thank you.